Singapore is sold to the world like a luxury investment brochure, not a country, not a society, a financial product, low taxes, strong currency, efficient government, clean streets, high salaries. It looks perfect on paper, and that's the point. Singapore doesn't sell reality. It sells metrics, GDP per capita, stock market capitalization, property price indices, AAA credit ratings, foreign direct investment inflows. This is not a nation state. This is a pitch deck. And like every pitch deck, the first slide is designed to hypnotize you before you read the footnotes. Because the Singapore illusion begins the moment you stop asking one dangerous question. Who actually benefits from this system? The salary mirage. Let's start with the headline number everyone loves. Singapore salaries are high. Yes, and airline pilots are tall. The median income looks impressive until you subtract rent, healthcare, education, transportation, CPF lockups, and the small inconvenience called job insecurity. A six-figure salary in Singapore does not buy freedom, it buys continued participation. You earn more, but you are also priced higher. Your life becomes an operating expense. And if you lose your job, no generous welfare, no emotional speeches about social safety nets, no second chances packaged with sympathy. The system does not hate you. It simply does not need you. Real estate, where dreams go to be leveraged. Singapore property is marketed like a religion. Safe haven. Limited supply. Always goes up. Of course it does. It's engineered that way. Public housing tied to policy. Private housing tied to capital inflows. Foreign buyers treated like liquidity injections. Housing is not shelter here. It's a financial instrument with walls. Young professionals don't buy homes. They buy 30-year balance sheet obligations disguised as adulthood, and everyone cheers because prices rise. Who benefits? Developers, banks, asset holders, the state's fiscal math. Who pays? First-time buyers, middle-aged renters, anyone without inherited capital. This is not housing success. This is asset inflation wearing a polite smile. The stock market fairy tale Singapore loves to present itself as a global financial hub. And it is. For money, not for people. Capital flows in freely. Capital flows out instantly. Humans are the slowest moving asset in the system. Retail investors are encouraged to feel sophisticated. REITs, dividend stocks, blue chips, passive income dreams. Meanwhile, institutional capital plays a different game entirely. Short-term yield, tax efficiency, regulatory arbitrage. You invest for stability, they invest for optionality. Guess who wins? The psychological cost nobody prices. And here's the part no brochure includes. Living in Singapore feels like being constantly evaluated by an invisible credit committee. Your job, your visa, your income, your age, your relevance. Everything is conditional. This creates a population that is efficient, disciplined, risk-averse, quietly anxious. Failure is not romantic here. Failure is logistical. The illusion tells you, if you work hard enough, you'll be safe. Reality says, if you remain useful, you'll be tolerated. Why this video exists? This is not an anti-Singapore rant. This is worse. It's a financial autopsy of a fantasy. Because millions of people across Asia, Europe, and the West are chasing this image without understanding the cost structure underneath it. And if you're watching this thinking, finally, someone is saying it, then congratulations, you are the target audience. Call to action. Yes, this is on purpose. If this chapter made you uncomfortable, good. Discomfort means retention. Like this video, because algorithms respect engagement, not truth. Subscribe because Chapter 2 gets sharper and less polite. Comment because your anecdote feeds the machine that pushes this video further. Singapore is not a dream. It's a system. And in Chapter 2, we talk about who gets filtered out. Singapore does not open its doors to people. It opens spreadsheets. You are not an immigrant. You are an entry in a talent allocation model. Age, salary history, industry relevance, passport value, replacement cost. If this sounds cold, that's because it is. Singapore is not emotional about growth. Emotion is inefficient. The illusion tells you Singapore attracts the best talent in the world. The truth is simpler and more uncomfortable. Singapore attracts talent that maximizes capital efficiency. The myth of meritocracy. Everyone loves to believe Singapore is a pure meritocracy. Work hard, be smart, follow the rules. And yes, competence matters. But competence alone doesn't clear immigration. What really matters is economic leverage. Are you directly increasing GDP, strengthening a strategic industry, filling a skill gap locals won't touch, or bringing capital with you? If the answer is, I'm just hard-working, the system nods politely and moves on. Merit is respected. Utility is required. Disposable talent economics. Here's the part nobody says out loud. Singapore doesn't need you forever, it needs you right now. Young foreign professionals arrive at peak productivity years. They work long hours, they save aggressively, they consume carefully, they pay taxes, they don't complain. Then one of three things happens. Salary growth stalls. Visa renewal becomes complicated. A cheaper, younger replacement appears, and suddenly the welcome mat folds itself. This is not discrimination. This is cost optimization. Middle age is a liability, not a phase. In many countries, experience accumulates value. In Singapore's labour market, experience depreciates after a point. Why? Because the system is optimized for speed, adaptability, compliance, cost control. Middle-aged professionals are expensive. They ask questions, they expect stability, they compare systems. And comparison is dangerous in a place that runs on silent consensus. So the illusion shifts. Singapore is amazing if you're under 40. After that, the math changes. Capital is mobile. People are not. This is the core imbalance. Money crosses borders instantly. People need visas, contracts, approvals, renewals. Singapore is designed to protect capital first. Banks are safe. Markets are stable. Regulation is predictable. Human lives, flexible, adjustable, replaceable. You don't live in Singapore. You operate in it. Why foreigners keep defending the system? Here's the psychological trap. Many foreigners defend Singapore aggressively. Why? Because admitting the truth would mean admitting, I built my life on conditional acceptance. And that's terrifying. So they repeat the illusion louder. Low crime, high pay, efficient government. All true and still incomplete. The quiet fear. Nobody tweets about, there is a fear that follows many expatriates here. Not poverty, not violence, not chaos, irrelevance. The fear that one email, one policy change, one restructuring makes you invisible. And invisibility in a high-cost city is not poetic. It's expensive. Call to action. Again, yes. If you've ever felt this pressure, you're not alone. Like the video because it helps surface conversations people avoid. Subscribe because Chapter 3 moves from labour to money flows and class separation. Comment because your experience is data, and data drives reach. Singapore is not cruel, it is precise. And in Chapter 3, we talk about who owns the system and who just rents a life inside it. If you really want to understand Singapore, stop looking at people. Look at money flow diagrams. Because Singapore is not organised around culture, history, or identity. It is organised around capital efficiency. And once you see that, the illusion collapses very fast. 2 Singapores, 1 address. There aren't many social classes in Singapore. There are 2 economic roles: capital owners, capital service providers. That's it. You either own assets or you help assets generate returns. The illusion pretends there is a middle. There isn't. There is just a temporary buffer between the two. Asset inflation as national policy. Singapore's economic success is not mysterious. It's engineered. Controlled land supply, state-backed housing monetization, financial sector prioritization, predictable regulatory enforcement, strong currency bias. Every policy funnels value upward into assets. Property goes up. REITs stay attractive. Blue-chip stocks protect dividends. Banks remain conservative and profitable. This is not accidental. This is policy discipline. And if you don't own assets, you don't benefit from discipline. You pay for it. CPF. Forced savings or elegant liquidity trap. Let's talk about CPF. Carefully, calmly, like adults. CPF is sold as social security. In practice, it is capital immobilization. Your money is locked, your flexibility is reduced, your risk is shifted from the state to the individual. Yes, returns are stable. Yes, default rates are low, but liquidity matters. When housing prices rise, CPF becomes a funding source. When markets wobble, CPF becomes a stabilizer. For the system, not necessarily for you. Stock market, where retail investors learn their place. Singapore encourages retail investing, but not power. Retail investors are nudged toward dividends, stability, low volatility, long-term holding institutions chase, arbitrage, tax efficiency, global rebalancing, short-term yield. You invest to feel secure. They invest to stay liquid. Security and liquidity are not the same thing. One is emotional, one is profitable. The middle class that never accumulates. Here's the quiet tragedy. Many professionals in Singapore earn well their entire lives and still never build meaningful wealth. Why? Because rising incomes chase rising asset prices. Salary growth feeds rent. Bonuses feed mortgages. Savings feed down payments. The ladder moves upward at the same speed you climb. You don't fall behind. You just never arrive. Why this system feels successful. Externally, Singapore looks flawless. Low crime, order, efficiency, stability. Because systems optimized for capital hate chaos. Chaos disrupts markets. So the city is calm, clean, predictable, and emotionally thin. The unspoken trade-off. Here is the deal nobody explains clearly. Singapore offers safety instead of belonging, efficiency instead of expression, wealth concentration instead of social mobility. Some people love this trade, others feel something missing, but can't name it. That feeling has a name. You are economically useful, not socially rooted. Call to action. You know the drill. If this chapter hit a nerve, that's not an accident. Like this video, because uncomfortable finance truths travel poorly without help. Subscribe because Chapter 4 goes into mental health, burnout, and silent exits. Comment because your story proves this isn't theory. Singapore doesn't fail people, it simply never promised to catch them. Singapore doesn't look stressed, that's the first trick. The trains run on time, the streets are clean, the buildings shine, the numbers look right. So when someone breaks down here, the assumption is simple. It must be a personal problem, not a structural one, not a systemic one, not a financial one, just weakness. Productivity as identity. In Singapore, productivity isn't just expected, it's moralized. If you are busy, you are respectable. If you are tired, you are contributing. If you slow down, something is wrong with you. Rest feels suspicious. Reflection feels indulgent. Doubt feels dangerous. People don't ask, "Are you okay?" They ask, "Are you still employed?" The quiet burnout pattern. Burnout here doesn't explode. It evaporates. People don't scream. They withdraw. They stop socializing. They stop planning long term. They stop imagining alternatives. Life narrows to work, commute, sleep, repeat. And because everything functions, no alarm is triggered. A machine that works doesn't get inspected. Mental health as a personal expense therapy exists. Counseling exists. Support exists. At a price. Mental health is treated like gym membership. Optional, private, out of pocket. Which sends a clear signal. If you can't afford help, you probably shouldn't need it. This keeps distress invisible and contained. Efficient. The foreign exit nobody celebrates. Eventually, many foreigners leave, quietly. No farewell parties, no LinkedIn essays, no dramatic announcements. They say things like, "It wasn't the right fit. I wanted something different. I'm taking a break." What they mean is, "I was tired of being evaluated every day. Leaving feels like failure. Staying feels like suffocation." So they choose silence. Locals don't escape. They endure. Here's the uncomfortable comparison. Foreigners can leave. Locals usually can't. Family ties, housing obligations, CPF lock-ins, cultural expectations. So endurance becomes a virtue. Complain less. Adapt more. Lower expectations. And the system rewards this. Why this pressure never makes headlines? Because nothing looks wrong. No riots, no visible poverty, no chaos. Just a population running very efficiently toward emotional exhaustion. Burnout without collapse is invisible. And invisibility is the system's greatest achievement, the psychological cost of stability. Stability sounds good until you realize what it costs. It costs risk-taking, creative failure, non-linear lives, second chances. You trade volatility for certainty, but certainty becomes suffocating when there is no exit ramp. Call to action, yes again. If you've ever felt this pressure, you already know this isn't exaggeration, like the video, so this doesn't get buried under motivational nonsense. Subscribe because Chapter 5 is the final one, and it asks the hardest question: why do people still chase this illusion? Comment because shared experience breaks isolation. Singapore doesn't crack people loudly, it wears them down quietly. After everything you've heard, one question remains. Why do people still chase Singapore? Why do they keep applying, moving, defending, rationalizing? The answer is not ignorance, it's fear. The fear of worse places. Singapore survives comparison, not because it's perfect, but because many alternatives are broken. Unstable currencies, corrupt institutions, unsafe streets, political chaos, collapsing pensions. Compared to disorder, Singapore looks like salvation, and fear lowers standards very efficiently. People don't ask, "Is this good for my life?" They ask, "Is this safer than the alternative?" That's how illusions survive. The upgrade from home syndrome. Most migrants don't compare Singapore to an ideal life. They compare it to home: lower pay, higher crime, less opportunity, more uncertainty. So Singapore feels like progress, and progress is addictive, even when it's conditional. Once you upgrade, you fear downgrading, so you tolerate more than you should. Social media as illusion maintenance. Instagram loves Singapore. Clean skyline, infinity pools, orderly food courts, efficient lifestyles. Nobody posts. Visa anxiety, burnout, stagnant careers, aging out of relevance. The algorithm rewards surfaces, not structures, so the illusion gets reinforced daily, the rationalization loop. People who stay long-term often do something fascinating. They defend the system aggressively, because admitting flaws would mean admitting, "I optimized for safety, not fulfillment." That's hard to swallow after sacrificing youth, energy, and identity, so they double down. This is just how the world works. You're being unrealistic. Every country has problems. True, but not every system is this precise about who it discards. Singapore as a global filter, not a destination. Here's the honest framing. Singapore is not a place to arrive, it's a place to pass through. It filters capital, talent, ambition, risk tolerance. Some people exit richer, some exit exhausted, some never realize they're being filtered until the door closes. The illusion is believing this was meant to be permanent. What this video is not saying. This video is not saying, "Don't come to Singapore." It's saying, "Don't come blinded, come understanding." The financial trade-offs, the career ceiling, the emotional cost, the exit conditions. Singapore is excellent at what it does. You just need to decide whether you want to be part of that equation. The real question you should ask yourself, not, is Singapore good or bad? But, what am I trading away for this stability? Time, flexibility, belonging, second chances. If the trade is worth it, fine. If not, don't let the illusion make the decision for you. Final call to action. This one matters. If this series helped you think more clearly, like the video. It tells the algorithm this wasn't empty noise. Subscribe because this channel dissects illusions, not destinations. Comment because your experience will help someone else avoid walking in blind. Singapore isn't a lie. It's a very selective truth. And now you've seen the whole picture.